Hi everyone, Megan here. I'm excited to do another video in my All Things Anne series. I pretty much have like an endless pool of Anne topics. So Anne is in Anne of Green Gables, of course. So yeah, I thought today I would rank my least favorite to my favorite books in the Anne of Green Gables series. That's not including all her other books. You can see my Anne of Green Gables books are missing off the shelves. These are some first edition Anne of Green Gables books, which maybe I'll show another time. But yeah, so let's get to the ranking. But first, if you hear like a bunch of noise going on in the background, that is just my landlords. They are having a family gathering right now. So that's really exciting for them. So if you hear something, that going on, that's what it is. All right, so now, for those of you who don't know, Anne of Green Gables has 8 books in it. They start from the time when Anne was 11 to the time when she is a mother with grown children. Now, there will be, this is pretty much going to be spoiler free, except one spoiler, which is who Anne ends up with, or if she ends up with anyone, I should say. So if you don't want to know that, then don't watch this video because I will be mentioning that. If you know who she ends up with, even if you haven't read the books or even seen any adaptations, then that's okay because this will be totally spoiler-free other than that. So, my least favorite Anne of Green Gables book, which I should say I still do like, I've read it at least twice, maybe more, is Anne of Windy Poplars. Anne of Windy Poplars is book number 4 in the Anne of Green Gables series. So what often happens is when people read this series, they get stumped at book 4 and then they stop reading the series, which is too bad because some of the best books in the series are later on in the series. Now, another thing I should say is that book number 4 did not come out 4th in the series. It was actually published second to last of the series, and that is one reason why it's not as good. So if you read the series in publication order, you will get just as much out of it because that's what the original audience, that's how the original audience read it, and you won't get stumped on this book. Now, the reason why this book is often not people's favorite is because you can kind of tell that Ella Montgomery was kind of done with Anne. She even said in her journal after she wrote the 8th book, but it was out of order, so what was that? That would have been like the 5th book she wrote, or maybe the 4th book? I can't remember. But after she wrote that book, she said, "This will be my last Anne book, no more Anne books, nobody can make me write any more Anne books." Well, she did. So you can tell that it's just a little bit lackluster because of that. The book mostly focuses on other people in Anne's life. It doesn't even so much focus on Anne, which is a drawback. The other stories she tells are delightful. Like some of them are hilarious, some of them are heartwarming. So they are good stories. They're just not really Anne. So that's why this is my least favorite in the series. It's still a good book though. My second least favorite in the series is Anne of Ingleside. Now, Anne of Ingleside came out, it's the 6th book in the series, but it came out second to last. So same thing with Anne of Windy Poplars. She was not going to write any more Anne books. Then the publisher kind of squeezed out a couple more books to fill in the gaps of Anne's life that she hadn't written about before. Now, the reason why I like this one better than Anne of Windy Poplars is because by now Anne has kids. You can see 2 of her daughters on the cover there. And it's really delightful to see the shenanigans that her kids get into. It's kind of like warming up in a way to the next 2 books in the series, which focus more on her kids. And it's really fun. The last 3 chapters of this, it talks about, the last 3 chapters are more about Anne and Gilbert's relationship. So there's the spoiler. She ends up marrying Gilbert. Some of you know that, whatever, it's no new news. Some of you, that might be news. You might not even know who Gilbert is. Anne ends up with Gilbert, and they have a bunch of kids together. And the last 3 chapters, even though this book focuses more on their kids, the last 3 chapters really focuses on Anne and Gilbert. And at first, it's worrisome. You're like, oh no, what's going on with them? They're like, my one true pairing or whatever. I don't know fandom language that well, but of course, it's Anne of Green Gables. It's the Anne of Green Gables series, so you know that things will turn out right in the end. And the thing is, by the time you get to book 6, Anne of Ingleside, things are shifting towards focusing on Anne's kids and less on her. So you really get that in especially book 8, the last book in the series. But yeah, so still a good one. Not my favorite, still a good one. My third least favorite is Anne's House of Dreams. So even though this is the 5th book in the series, it was written 4th. So it was written before Anne of Windy Poplars. And if you read book 3 and you go right into this one, book 5, it actually makes a lot more sense. This kind of picks up, even though it skips to a couple years later, it kind of picks up right where book 3 left off in the feel of it. And in a way, Ella Montgomery kind of recaps what just happened at the end of book 3 and then comes into this. So it gets a real good momentum going from book 3 into book 5. And then if you kind of read book 4, Anne of Windy Poplars in there, it totally wrecks that momentum. And it's like, it's just like, ooh, like if you're having trouble with Anne of Windy Poplars, just skip it, go straight to Anne's House of Dreams. Now, Anne's House of Dreams, it's a bit more serious in some ways because Anne and Gilbert have just got married. They're dealing with some more serious things now that they're adults. Of course they are. When you're kids, you do deal with serious things, and sometimes you have very traumatic things happening. But as an adult, they have to deal with the problems themselves. They don't necessarily have a ton of support because they have moved to a new town and they get their house of dreams. They do, however, what this book kind of focuses on is them building that new community, that new support, making new friends. New characters are introduced and they're wonderful and delightful. The other thing about Anne's House of Dreams is that in Ella Montgomery's journal, she wrote, at the time that she wrote this, when was that, 1917, I think? 1922. 1922. I don't know why I thought 1917. Anyways, so at the time that she wrote this book, she said this was the best book that she had ever written. Now, this was before the Emily series. I think that would be what she would have called her masterpiece. But personally, this isn't my favorite. It's a delightful book. I do like it. There are some, sometimes it feels a little bit overdramatic or unbelievable, but I mean, maybe that's totally fine. I tend to really like realism that's really earned. Sometimes I like other things too, but sometimes it's just a bit hard to really buy into it, I guess. It's still a great book, but that's kind of why it's not higher on this list. Now, my fourth from the bottom, 5th from the top, is Rainbow Valley. Now, Rainbow Valley is book 7 in the series, so this also is a book that focuses more on the next generation, Anne's kids, not so much herself. The only thing is, like Ella Montgomery, when she wrote this, she was still enjoying the world of Anne, but you could tell that she was kind of moving on when she wrote this. So she focuses more on not even Anne's kids, but Anne's kids' friends. So a new family moves into town, the Merediths. They are the minister's children, and the minister is a widower. He is a very dreamy sort who's always stuck in his head, like almost like absent-minded professor. He's like the absent-minded minister / poet. He's very, like, not dreamy as in the sense of handsome, but dreamy as in the sense of he daydreams a lot. So he's very unaware and oblivious to what's going on with his children, and he's actually kind of not a great dad because of that. So his kids are getting into scrapes all the time, and it's really hilarious, actually, and Mr. Meredith does eventually clue in. So you do get to see more of Anne and more of the Blythe children, Anne's children, and there's one infamous scene in this involving a codfish that is talked about in the last book of the series that really affects a certain character. So my next favorite is Anne of Avonlea. This is book 2. So this is the years after Anne has graduated school, after she's gone to teacher's college for 1 year, and now she's a teacher in Avonlea. And this book, again, has a lot of focusing on other characters besides Anne, but the stuff that does focus on Anne is really good. Like, focuses more on her friendship with Gilbert and how he loves her, but Anne is like, nope, we're friends. I just really like you as a friend. So, yeah, it's really great. It's really fun to see her. She's kind of in that phase where she's now like almost an adult, but she's still kind of a girl. So, yeah. Okay, third favorite is actually, it's a bit surprising. You might have expected this to be number 1. It's Anne of Green Gables. Anne of Green Gables is my third favorite, even though it is the quintessential book. This is the one that people know. If you don't know anything else, if you don't know who Ella Montgomery is, if you don't know anything else about any of the other series or any of her other books, you know this one, Anne of Green Gables. This is a great book. I don't know how many times I've read it. I've read it many times. It's so good. It's so good. Anne is someone that I don't really know anyone who dislikes Anne. I mean, I guess maybe there are some people out there who dislike her, but she is so relatable. She's so fun. She's so imperfect, but she's a likable character. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. And there's so many funny things that happen, like the Lily maid, if you know what I'm talking about. She has a mishap with a boat and the lake and Gilbert, and it's really, really good. I mean, that infamous scene when she cracks the slate over Gilbert's head, that is an iconic scene. It's just so good. I cannot recommend Anne of Green Gables enough. If you have not read it, read it. The first 3 chapters, I tend to be like, why are we talking so much about Rachel Lynde and Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert? Like, let's get to Anne. But those chapters are still fun too, and once you get to Anne, it's just like so, so good. My second favorite, which, I mean, these two, you know, it depends on what mood I am, which mood I'm in, which would be number 1. But for today, I'm going to say my number 2 book is Rilla of Ingleside. This is the last book in the series. This might be my favorite. It just seems kind of heretical to have a Rilla book as my favorite book in the Anne of Green Gables series when it's the Anne series. So today I'm putting Rilla as number 2. This is the last book in the series, number 8. It's about Rilla, who is Anne's daughter during World War I. It's beautiful. It is both extremely dramatic and extremely comedic. Because it's in wartime, it has more, like, it covers more emotions, I guess, more, it makes you feel different things than the other books. But it is still hilarious. The characters are all very detailed, drawn with detail. So that's what I'm trying to say. So, and of course I played Rilla. I co-adapted, co-wrote, produced, marketed, and played Rilla in a stage version. It is so good. I cannot recommend it enough. Like, even if you can't get through the rest of them, you get stalled out, read this one. It's so good. And I'm saying like, oh, even if you can't get through, and I understand that happens sometimes with classics, even modern classics. You might not be able to get through the whole series, but these books aren't actually that big. So, and they're so good. They're just so good. Now, my number 1 book in the Anne of Green Gables series is Anne of the Island. Now, this might partly be where I am at life. I mean, I'm not in college anymore, but this is a college book. And Ella Montgomery did not want to write a college book. She's like, I only went to college for 1 year. I wish I could have gone longer. But she only went to Dalhousie for 1 year, and she wished she could have had all 4 years, which is what she gives to Anne. So this is about Anne goes out to college. She's still friends with Diana, but she makes lots of new friends who are girls, Philippa, Priscilla, Stella, and she meets some new boys too. And her and Gilbert's relationship, or their friendship, continues in a tumultuous way. And so a lot happens in this, and it's just, it's really the book that transitions from Anne the girl to Anne the adult. That's this one. So, yeah, that is how I would rank them today. Some days I might rank them differently, but that's how I'm ranking them today. It's really just, I just love, like, I don't always necessarily think of them as separate books. I just think of Anne's life and Rilla's life and her kids' life. I love all of that. It's just so heartwarming, so hilarious, also so moving too. I would highly, highly recommend them to everyone, like old, young, men, women, girls, boys, everyone. I would recommend it. So, yeah, may you be filled with peace, hope, love, and joy. Take care, everyone.